In case we have forgotten, because we keep hearing that 2014 has been the warmest year on record, I asked the chair, you know what this is? It's a snowball, and that's just from outside here. So it's very, very cold out, very unseasonal. So here, Mr. President, catch this.
That's Jim Inhofe, perhaps the strongest climate crisis denier in the Senate and also the weakest sitting snowball thrower. As wildfires and orange skies ravage our country, Inhofe tries to look the other way, where there are also wildfires. But who is he? And why is he being weird on this? I'm comedian Brent Terhune, and this is the story of a heavy-hitting legislator fanning the literal flames of climate crisis denial. James Mountain Inhofe was born way back pre-World War II in 1934 in Des Moines, Iowa, long before he'd be en route to one day lobby for the destruction of his middle namesake. He grew up in Tulsa, Oklahoma, attending public schools. He was drafted and served in the Army for about 1 year from 1957 to 1958 as a clerk at Fort Lee in Virginia. After his quick stint in the Army, Inhofe lied about graduating from the University of Tulsa with a degree in economics. For 35 years, in biographies and elsewhere, Inhofe erroneously said he got his degree in 1959, but he actually didn't get it until 14 years later, in 1973, when he was already a state senator. He later explained that he was in fact, initially, a few credits short. Inhofe spent 30 years as a businessman in land development, insurance, and aviation, including a stint with the family-owned life insurance firm, Quaker Life Company. After a series of bad investments, the company failed to keep its head above water. Inhofe blamed it all on the recession, but whatever it was, stockholders weren't happy with the way Inhofe steered the ship. They sued him and alleged the firm was mismanaged and that they were deceived. In the end, all the suits were dropped or settled in favor of Inhofe. However, the insurance company's failure created a $1.7 million deficit in the Oklahoma Life and Health Insurance Guarantee Association Fund. Prior to his failed business, in 1966, Inhofe won a seat in the Oklahoma House, spending one 2-year term there before moving on to the state Senate. In 1974, he ran for governor, but only won 4 counties and lost the race to a Democrat, 64% to 36%. A couple of years later, Inhofe ran for Oklahoma's 1st congressional district, but lost that race too. After losing twice in a row, most people would move on to something they're good at, like, I don't know, lying about your graduation date so you can start failing upwards. But Inhofe kept going. In 1978, he became mayor of Tulsa, winning re-election 2 more times. As mayor, Inhofe was a big proponent of renewable energy sources like wind and solar, calling on Tulsans to, quote, enhance their understanding and dedicate themselves to development of alternative energy sources. In 1983, he even tried to build a monorail, which would have been the first city in the country to have one. Inhofe, at the time, said, solar energy is bound to be in our future. There's a kind of inevitability about it, but it didn't take long for him to reject it all. In 1994, Inhofe ran for the U.S. Senate and won, where he's been stirring the rising waters ever since. In the Senate, Inhofe apparently flip-flopped on his renewable energy views and no longer thinks renewable energy is a good idea. It's unclear why exactly he's become such a climate crisis denier. Oh wait, never mind. No, it isn't. Over his career, he's been given a whopping $2.2 million from the oil and gas industry and has ever since repeatedly denied the existence of global warming.
Wake up, America, with all the hysteria, all the fear, all the phony science. Could it be that man-made global warming is the greatest hoax ever perpetrated on the American people? I believe it is.
Inhofe wrote a book called The Greatest Hoax: How the Global Warming Conspiracy Threatens Your Future. In an interview back in 2003, Inhofe said, numerous studies have actually shown that global warming can be beneficial to mankind. It's unclear which studies Inhofe is referring to. In researching this, I couldn't find any study talking about how chill and awesome it would be to live under the sea. It's worth noting, Inhofe is aware of wildfires caused by climate change because in one of the cringiest clips of all time, he flies his plane over wildfire damage in northwest Oklahoma and comments about how he's never seen it this bad.
Been looking at these for a lot of years, and I've never seen one quite this bad.
If watching a guy fly a gas-guzzling airplane over wildfire damage has you wondering what on earth could have caused something like that, you're not alone, and I guess we'll never know. Either way, you can rest assured, because according to Inhofe, God is controlling the climate.
My point is, God's still up there. And this is the arrogance of people who think that we, human beings, would be able to change what he is doing in the climate is, to me, outrageous.
When trying to decide who is more credible on the issues of climate change, you must look at the differences between a senator who throws a snowball on the floor of the Senate and the 97% of actively published climate scientists who believe climate warming trends over the past 100 years are likely due to human activity. Once, even Inhofe sided with those climate scientists. In an interview on CNN, he slipped up and said he believed in climate change until he realized money and power was more important than saving the planet.
In the very beginning, I thought perhaps this might be true until I found out what the cost would be to the United States of America.
While the world is on fire, let's take a quick look at some of the other weird stuff Inhofe has done while in the Senate. He backed the racist birther conspiracy, which asserted America's first black president wasn't born in the US, a theory that was obviously debunked. Inhofe also believes in racial profiling.
I'm for one, I know it's not politically correct to say it, I believe in racial and ethnic profiling. I think if you're looking at people getting on an airplane and you have X amount of resources to get into it, you need to get at the targets, not my wife.
Let's get a brief moment of silence for whatever's going on with Inhofe, please. Okay, thanks. In addition to being a staunch opponent of same-sex marriage, Inhofe voted no on adding sexual orientation to the definition of hate crimes and voted no on prohibiting job discrimination by sexual orientation. In 2006, during a debate on a constitutional amendment to ban same-sex marriage, Inhofe once again got all weird.
My wife and I have been married 47 years. We have 20 kids and grandkids. I'm really proud to say that in the recorded history of our family, we've never had a divorce or any kind of a homosexual relationship.
Inhofe is no stranger to dipping his toes in the world of insider trading. In 2018, as chairman of the Senate Armed Services Committee, Inhofe bought between $50,000 to $100,000 worth of stock in Raytheon, a major defense contractor. A week before doing so, he lobbied Trump to increase military spending. After coming under the spotlight because of this transaction, a spokesperson for Inhofe said he canceled the transaction, which was allegedly performed by a third-party advisor. Inhofe said, "I don't even know what they invest in. That's the truth. And I know people don't want to believe it. That is fine," said the guy who went from clean energy to oil and gas once he found out that's where the money was. This wasn't Inhofe's last brush with apparent ethics violations. On January 27, 2020, just 3 days after he and other lawmakers received a private briefing on the coronavirus from the Trump administration, financial disclosures show Inhofe sold up to $400,000 in stock, including his entire holdings in PayPal, Intuit Inc., and Danaher Corporation, and partial holdings in Brookfield Asset Management Inc. and Apple. Meanwhile, at the time, Trump was completely downplaying the COVID-19 pandemic, saying to CNBC's Joe Kernan, "We have it totally under control. It's one person coming in from China. It's going to be just fine." However, Inhofe claims he had no knowledge of stock transactions, and Trump's Justice Department, led by William Barr, dropped their investigation regarding Inhofe's possible insider trading. Inhofe, the fourth oldest senator, is up for re-election on November 3rd, 2020, which is an optimistic date given both Inhofe's age and his legacy of duplicitous political moves aimed at accruing power and enriching himself over that of his country. A country that is quite literally on fire. Your move, America.
Hey, thanks for watching Who Is? Did you know we have a podcast now too? On Who Is, the podcast, I'll dive deep into the fascinating lives of the people who run things, whose decisions impact every aspect of our lives. How did they get where they are today? And knowing that, what might they do next? From politicians to the ultra-rich, to military contractors and monarchs and media moguls, I'll introduce you to the reporters and experts who know these real-life world molders best. Sharp-eyed observers and confidants who observe our subjects as they make the decisions that define our everyday lives. To see more, hit the link or search Who Is on the iHeartRadio app or wherever you get your podcasts. And for more of the video series you know and love, be sure to check out the Snapchat versions and our series playlists on YouTube and Facebook.